In this video, we'll get an introduction to Google Sheets, Google's powerful spreadsheet application. To start Sheets from your main Google landing page, click the dots to open the apps and click the Sheets icon. If you don't see this icon, click the More link. Just like with Docs and Slides, you can start with a blank sheet or choose one of the standard templates. I'll start with a blank sheet. If you're familiar with spreadsheets, you should recognize this setup. There are horizontal rows and vertical columns, with letters identifying the columns and numbers identifying the rows. Each cell is identified by its letter and number. For example, this cell is C5. Cell location is important when performing numerical calculations. Here I have some data already filled in. The first row contains header labels for each column. Entering data is easy. Just click in a cell, type what you want to appear, and click Enter. I can change formatting of a single cell or all cells. For example, to make all of my headers bold, I can select the entire row by clicking the 1, then clicking the bold icon. I can also make the header text larger or a different color. If you have data from an existing spreadsheet that you want to bring into Sheets, you can drag to highlight all of the cells you need to copy and press Ctrl+C. Then in Sheets, place your cursor in the cell where the top left corner of the copied cells will go and paste them in. Copied cells will usually retain the formatting they had in their original application. The headers in these columns don't appear in their entirety, so I can select these 3 cells, click the text wrapping icon, and choose Wrap. Now we can read each one. I can also center them with this icon. Now we'll look at some basic functions you can perform in Sheets. Say I want to do some sorting of the data. First, I want to mark the top row so that it will stay in place and not be affected by any sorting operations. To do this, I'll select the entire first row, then I'll click the filter icon. Now each of these cells has a drop-down arrow, and I can drag cell borders to make everything easier to read. If I want these 3 columns to have the same width, I can select them all by dragging from B to D, right-clicking, choosing Resize Columns, and entering a new width in pixels. Now to sort this column, I can click the arrow in cell B1 and choose Sort A through Z. This rearranges the numbers so that in this column they go from least to greatest. Or I can do the same in cell A1 to sort the names alphabetically. Now I want to add a new name and data to the spreadsheet. I can add it at the bottom, but if I want it to go in the right spot alphabetically, I can add a new row. I'll highlight this row, then right-click and choose Insert One Above. Now I can fill in the data for each cell. Note that whatever I type while in a cell also appears in the function bar at the top. There are lots of standard math operations you can perform in Sheets. For example, I can get the average monthly sales for each student. I'll add a header to a new column, which automatically gets the same formatting as the other headers. Now I need to enter a formula in this cell. Formulas always start with an equal sign. Since I want to calculate an average, I can start typing the word average, and Sheets will suggest some formulas that I might want. Then I need to tell Sheets which cells to perform this operation on. Sheets then adds an open parentheses, which means you need to specify the cells for the calculation. The cells should be B2, C2, and D2. I can highlight these cells, which adds them automatically here, or I could enter manually B2:D2. The colon tells Sheets to take all cells between and including the first and last. Then I need to close the parentheses. Press Enter and the calculation result appears here. Another way to do the same thing is to start with the cells needed for the calculation. I'll highlight the same 3 cells in the row below, then click the Sum icon. This drop-down menu lists several useful standard operations, and I can click More Functions for an even longer list. Going back to the spreadsheet, I'll click Sum again and choose Average. The correct cells are filled in, and I just need to press Enter. I don't have to repeat this calculation for each row. If I highlight this cell and copy it, then select the remaining empty cells and paste in the formula for each row is automatically performed on the correct cells. For example, in row 5, the average is taken for these cells in row 5. I'll undo this last change by pressing Ctrl-Z, and I'll show another way to do the same thing. I can simply highlight one or more cells that I want copied, then drag the little blue square to the last cell where I want to place the copies. If I want to round these numbers to the nearest tenth, I can format the cells. I'll highlight the cells to change, choose Format, Number, More Formats, Custom Number Format. I'll enter 0.0 and click Apply. Now this column looks cleaner. Another feature is the ability to color code cells. Applying fill color is easy. I can select the cells to color and use this icon to change the fill color of those cells. But I can also apply formatting based on certain conditions. Say I want to use a green background for cells above 20, yellow for cells between 10 and 20, and red for less than 10. I'll highlight all the cells I want to format, then choose Format, Conditional Formatting. For the red condition, I'll choose less than and enter the value of 10. Then I'll choose the formatting style of red fill. Now these cells have this red fill. For the next condition, I'll choose is between, with values between 10 and 20.1, so that cells of 20 will be included. I'll set this fill color to yellow. Then I'll add another condition for greater than 20 with green fill, and I'll click Done. Now I have an easy way to see which students exceeded or didn't meet their sales targets. I can also convert this data into a chart. Again, I'll highlight all of the cells I want to include, including the header row. Then I'll choose Insert Chart. Google will pick a default chart that best matches the type of data. I can change the type of chart, set how the header data is used, and if I double-click in the title field, I can change it. I can also double-click on a color bar to change its properties. I can click the three-dot icon for more chart options, such as moving it to its own sheet or saving it as an image. I can also move the entire chart to a different spot. Back to the cells, I'd now like to add a title. I'll add a row above this one and place the title in this cell. In order for this title to appear above the entire table, I'll select all of these cells and click the Merge Cells icon. I'll center the title horizontally, drag down the cell border to make this row deeper, and center the text vertically as well. Finally, I'd like to mark the borders of this table. I'll select the entire table and click the Borders icon. I'll click this icon to outline the entire table with a bold line. I can do the same thing to outline just the first two rows as well.